November 11th. I'm Jeremy Abel sitting in today. It's a rainy day here in Bastyr. Yeah, it's a rainy day here in Bastyr. Yeah, and there we have at least three. Good morning, and welcome to Inside the News. First, good morning and welcome to Inside the News for today, Saturday, November the 11th. I'm German Abel sitting in. It's a rainy day here in the capital, St. Kitts and Nevis. You know, we have three cruise ships. Port Zante is buzzing. St. Kitts is buzzing today. But before we jump into the program and start our discussions, we have to acknowledge our partners, Carib Brewery and TDC. You know, they make the program possible.
If you need protection, you need one who you can trust. To secure your investment, you need one who'll do you just. TDC Insurance, you're the one that you can trust. TDC Insurance, you're always safe with us. TDC Insurance is your go-to insurance company for all your insurance needs. We take pride in offering you the best solutions and ensuring our customers are fully satisfied. TDC Insurance, we take good care of you, guaranteeing you peace of mind. You're always safe with us.
Maybe it's the way the brilliant gold liquid reflects our sunshine, or how the bright blue of its label mirrors the clear Caribbean skies overhead. Maybe it's the fresh, crisp taste of this beastly cold beer on a scorching hot day. Maybe it's even the way it brings us all together. But one thing is for sure, Carib is very much a part of who we are wherever we're from in the Caribbean. Carib, it's the way we play. Drink responsibly.
People make the world go round.
And welcome back to Inside the News here on WINNMedia Family. I'm German Abel sitting in. As per usual, we discuss the major issues, major news that occurred, or major topics that made the news across the week. And we had quite a lot of news across the week. You know, the Prime Minister had his press conference earlier this week. And, he gave a number of announcements, and a critical one for all of us, which a lot of us were looking forward to, and some people are disappointed, but is that he announced the two VAT rate days, which will be next month, and the increase in the concessions from $200 to $250. You know, it's all part of the usual annual Christmas initiative that the government in St. Kitts and Nevis does. Yes, we had that, and I know that's one of the things a lot of people were looking forward to. And then we also had the Prime Minister talking about a number of other issues during the week. Then we saw regionally, there was actually an earthquake in the Dominican Republic yesterday afternoon. Yes. We also had an update with the Guyana-Venezuela issue that made the news. As a lot of us would know, Venezuela has sent troops to its border with Guyana, and that is one of the contentious areas between the two countries. And Guyana has expressed its disappointment with Venezuela, with CARICOM and some of the member states, because they're still what is being described as quote-unquote frenzy or hands-on with Venezuela. A lot of territories are still hands-on with Venezuela. Internationally, the war continues in Ukraine, between Ukraine and Russia. And then we also have the Israel-Gaza-Hamas war that is continuing there. And then we see we had a Republican debate this week where a number of the candidates are trying to separate themselves from each other, as well as lay out their platform ahead of push Donald Trump out of the running for the nomination. That's that, and yeah, that's been some of the big stories for the week here, both locally, regionally, and internationally. When I'm sitting here, we like to go into the news itself. How is these issues or stories impacting or benefiting you? We're not talking politics because we can talk politics every day, but that's not benefiting either one of us here in St. Kitts and Nevis. We have to find a solution to all problems that we have and how it's going to benefit and take us forward as a country, as the smallest independent nation in the Western Hemisphere. So, yes, last week we jumped a bit into the budget and what people expect, but are hopeful for to see in the 2024 budget. But this week, I want to jump into two things as we look to hold discussions. One, the question surrounding the citizenship by investment program. I know the Prime Minister was asked about it. I know the media has repeatedly sought information from the Prime Minister as the Minister of Finance and who has direct responsibility for the citizenship by investment program. We've been seeing figures being tossed around internationally, but this week we heard from the Prime Minister during his press conference, and he recommended that the media write to the CIU unit, even though we were directed to the CIU unit to make contact to get the necessary information. Yes, so he responded to that, as well as the ongoing water crisis in St. Kitts and Nevis. And that, in and of itself, is an issue that has long been affecting us here in the Federation. We're being affected by climate change and how that is, how we're going to rebound from that and be more sustainable in order for us to go forward as a territory is one of the critical things that we have here in St. Kitts and Nevis. How do we rebuild? How do we build more resilient, whether it be infrastructure or initiatives or ideas that we have in order for us to be sustainable and benefit? But I don't want to, prolong my introduction. We're going to be discussing, like I said, the CBI program and how can we move away from being dependent. I know the Prime Minister has been speaking about being resilient and being a sustainable island developing state. So we'll hear from a bit of what the Prime Minister had to say at his press conference, and then we'll open the phone lines to hear from you. Again, we don't talk politics. We go inside the news. We go beyond the headlines to see how this is exactly impacting you and benefiting the people of St. Kitts and Nevis.
Matter of the CBI is constantly being buzzed around. According to the UK Guardian, that article that was written in the UK Guardian, it cited about 88,000 passports being issued within the region. And their concern is that the EU Commission concern is that of security. And therefore, they are pushing for the cessation or ending of visa-free access to some of the European countries. Now, they quoted for St. Kitts and Nevis an amount of 36,700 passports. Can you confirm if this is correct? If not, what is the total number of passports that St. Kitts and Nevis has approved over the years? And since you have taken office, how many passports have you issued under the CBI program? Secondly, it is understood that a group of Russian, Ukrainian, and Belarusian applicants who applied for St. Kitts and Nevis citizenship under the CBI program have started an online petition to get their money back, because at some point their applications were approved and then the citizenship by investment unit disapproved the approval, and therefore they want their money back. And apparently they have not been successful in getting their money back. Can you explain what are the complete circumstances around this, and what actions is the CIU taking in regards to these applicants? Those are my two questions for the time being.
Thank you very much, Mr. Bad. Have you ever visited the CIU unit? Have you ever written to them?
Well, we've called 4 times to make appointments to see these.
You wrote.
We have not written to them.
Okay,
we've called the office.
I want to encourage
We
you.
have not been able to.
Right, I want to encourage you to write to them as well, because I think I mentioned that in press conferences before. Nonetheless, let me address your questions, Mr. Bayer. Thank you very, very, very much. On the last one, with respect to the nationalities that you mentioned, when we got into office, based on what was discussed, the program was stopped to these regions, as you know. Well, I don't know if you know, but it was before our time. They were stopped in June of 2022. March, sorry, of 2022. And therefore, based on what was happening, we continued the action. In terms of the return payment, of course, that, and I would say plainly, I've discussed that multiple times, and that is being dealt with as well. So it doesn't take a petition or anything. I don't know which petition that would be. I haven't seen any results of a petition. I don't know who is running this petition, so I can't speak to anything that is out there just on social media. I will speak to something that is official and give you the government's official position. However, the administrative aspect of that is being dealt with. That I can say, because I think we are responsible. But when you take over something, as I said before, they have to be audited, and one must have the requisite information before I speak on any matters to do with this. As you know, the CBI would have gone to changes after changes because we had promised that we would make upgraded changes, and we will continue to make the upgraded changes. Just like you in your field, Mr. Bad, I assume you would make upgraded changes accordingly. So the one on the nationalities that you mentioned, that is being dealt with administratively. And to give you the background, that was since March 2022 when that decision was made, and therefore, as we do our audit and find those, we deal with them accordingly, as you can appreciate. All right? So that was not a decision that we made and did not. We met that decision, and we are dealing with it administratively because that aspect of it was not dealt with, to be straight up and honest with you. The other thing that you would have asked is about the numbers. And I've said to you before that the audit is actually being had. I am not going to call a number until that audit is complete, but I can tell you this, that the vast majority was signed by the immediate past Prime Minister. That I would say. And as we look more and look more, we are finding where everything is. That I would say as well. That the issues of the security that are being asked, we have not laxed our security measures. As a matter of fact, we have strengthened them and we have added a new layer of security. That's a second layer. And we are going to add a third layer in short order. In short order, we are going to add a third layer. And that third layer will tell you would be an international security officer to make sure that even those who would have had the citizenship before, that we have still a system by which we make sure that protection is also there. Not just during the time when you apply it, but even after, that active surveillance is to continue. We suspect we'll be the first country to do it. But as I said before, that this government has taken the decision to take all the necessary measures to protect our country and to protect our people. So that I wanted to add with respect to the security measures as far as the CBI program is concerned. With respect to the audit, because it's an extensive audit that has to be done in terms of giving you an exact number, and I'm encouraging you to write to the CIU and to have a formal meeting with them. But again, because this information is sensitive, I cannot speak to it until I have all the data. Sometimes it's frustrating, but until that is completed and we made the changes, because our first thrust was to upgrade the program, make sure all the necessary security measures are in there so that we say to our international partners in the UK, in the EU, or wherever they are, that St. Kitts and Nevis is serious about that. And as you can see, St. Kitts and Nevis is the only Caribbean country that I know of who just recently got visa-free access to the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. I don't know if you noticed that. That is not done just because it is done. It is done when an assessment is done and determine that our country is safe to have that type of relations with. That was a serious and a significant foreign policy win for St. Kitts and Nevis. And just to update, I'll be traveling to the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia sometime next week, where we'll have a summit with Saudi Arabia, CARICOM, the first in the history. Again, St. Kitts and Nevis is the first Caribbean country to establish diplomatic ties with the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. As you know, the ambassador just recently came to St. Kitts and Nevis, and of course, he presented his credentials to Her Excellency, Governor General D. Marcella Liebert, and they were accepted, and we have now established official relations with the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, being the first country in the Caribbean to do so. So it means, therefore, that significant confidence into what St. Kitts and Nevis is doing and will continue to do. So that I will say. And with respect to, as I'm not trying to push that aside at all, Mr. Bad. This is a sensitive thing, and when I speak on it, it would have been because our security specialists, both local and international, will be able to say to us, this is it, or to me as the Prime Minister, this is it, Mr. Prime Minister. And we need more time. However, that at no point that our security apparatus will falter. As a matter of fact, we have a very strong security apparatus, and we are strengthening it to the point where it should become, as I would say, very sealed, so that we can continue to engender confidence in our international partners. And as I just said, with respect to the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, that has been significant in terms of a major confidence in St. Kitts and Nevis for us to be the first in this region to have established diplomatic ties and to have visa-free access. So if
People make the world go
Well, there you had it. There you had it. That's an excerpt from the Prime Minister's press conference that was held earlier this week, and he did not necessarily he once again directed the media to, make an application or write to the CIU to get the necessary information. The CBI program has been very, very crucial to St. Kitts and Nevis's economy, but he also mentioned in the press conference, and he's been mentioning it quite a lot, that the CBI program is one of the main staples for St. Kitts and Nevis's economy, and we have to be able to diversify and move away from our dependence on the CBI program, which has long been one of the bedrocks and pillars of our economy. And as we all know, a lot of our revenues and social programs come out of the CBI funds. As we all know, the $250+ million that we spend annually on social programs has long been, one of the biggest sticking points for people across St. Kitts and Nevis. Even some across the region have been wondering how do we continue to be able to sustain those initiatives. So, yes, it'll be good to hear from you in terms of the CBI program, as well as how can we as a country and as a people move away from our dependency on the citizenship by investment program, because as we've been hearing for quite some time, both from this prime minister and the immediate former prime minister, the program is under threat. The program itself is under threat. How do we protect ourselves here in St. Kitts and Nevis? We're a small island developing state. We've been challenged by the issue of climate change. They're even Met officials right now are keeping a close watch on a potential development in the Caribbean Sea, which could, and I'm not saying it's happening right now, but which could, possibly develop into a tropical storm and head our way. It's not in the Atlantic, but it's in the Caribbean Sea. Possible development there. So how do we as a country, sit down and develop in terms of the way in which we move forward as a country, in St. Kitts and Nevis? All these years of independence, what more can we do? How can we sustain ourselves? I know a lot of people in the country are dependent on the citizenship by investment program, and government assistance. But how do we become self-aware, self-independent? How do we, how do we be more self-oriented in the sense that we be able to do things for ourselves, whether it be small businesses or anything of that nature. But as we continue with the program, we'll take a quick break and acknowledge our partners, and then we'll come right back with more Inside the News.
Let TDC Financial Services help you go for your goals. Whether you're thinking of taking that grand vacation, down payment on a house, higher education, TDC Financial Services has various plans that will allow you to go for your goals. Choose from the Accumulator Plus, Investment Starter Plan, and Fixed Deposit. Ready to go for your goals? Visit us at TDC Financial Services, where money is made easy.
Maybe it's the way the brilliant gold liquid reflects our sunshine, or how the bright blue of its label mirrors the clear Caribbean skies overhead. Maybe it's the fresh, crisp taste of this beastly cold beer on a scorching hot day. Maybe it's even the way it brings us all together. But one thing is for sure, Carib is very much a part of who we are wherever we're from in the Caribbean. Carib. It's the way we play. Drink responsibly.
People make the world go
And we're back. We're back here on Inside the News on WINN FM. Yeah, so we're taking a quick look at the CBI program and its benefits to the St. Kitts and Nevis economy. So, one report, we saw a statement from the European Commission, which indicated, and the EU Guardian, the UK Guardian picked up the story, and it indicated that approximately 80,000 passports were issued under the CBI program in the Caribbean region. Right? Yes. Approximately 80,000 passports were issued under the Citizenship by Investment program in the region, at least by the OECS member states that provide those that service. Right. So it was against that backdrop questions are being asked and continue to be asked about the number of passports issued. But again, the media has been directed to the CIU in order to get the exact figure. But there was a report that was recently published by according to a press release from the Office of the Prime Minister, it was written by I.M. Daly and St. Kitts and Nevis Times. And the Office of the Prime Minister has rubbished those claims made in the piece. And the gentleman has since apologized on his social media. In the statement, the Prime Minister's office said, in an unequivocal and resounding denouncement, Prime Minister of St. Kitts and Nevis, Dr. Terence Roux, categorically rejects and condemns the egregiously false and malicious content disseminated by the blogs, and the blogs were mentioned. The posts, published on November 8, 2023, have alleged that the Citizenship by Investment Unit is grappling with significant challenges, particularly in meeting payments to service providers, and the once thriving Citizenship by Investment program may face closure, plunging the nation into severe financial crisis. The IM Daily Post quoted extensively from the Times blog, but went further to attribute statements to the Prime Minister that he never made and penned other outright fabrications. The Prime Minister has staunchly refuted the baseless allegations woven into these deceptive narratives, which not only attack the integrity of the St. Kitts and Nevis esteemed Citizenship by Investment program, but also brazenly seek to undermine trust in our federation's economic stability. The Prime Minister views such The Prime Minister views such spurious blogging with utmost disdain, vowing to confront this abhorrent breach of truth and public trust head on. So that was part of that's an excerpt out of a lengthy statement that was issued, and it was again sent out this morning by the Prime Minister's office. Right, the gentleman has since apologized for that and retracted his report on that. But yes, this underscores the nature of and it underscores the fragile nature of the Citizenship by Investment program here in St. Kitts and Nevis. Because again, a lot of our revenue, I know at least 2021, 2022, or 2021, thereabout, 2020, 2021, it represented a significant part of the revenues garnered by the government, right? And it underscores the need for us to move away from that. Yes. So it'd be good to get your views on that as we prepare for the 2024 budget here in St. Kitts and Nevis. Yes, as we prepare for the 2024 budget, where the government is once again, traveling around to various areas, communities, constituencies to get a feedback from you, the public, in terms of your expectations and what you would like to be included in the budget for next year. And we know we have been seeing a number of challenges, a number of issues here in St. Kitts and Nevis. One of them specifically is the water situation which again is impacting everyone here in St. Kitts and Nevis, from the farmers, livestock owners, construction workers, you name it, it's affecting all of us. It's even the ordinary man on the street. He or she is feeling the crunch, especially, when you don't have water, you have to either go fetch water or you have to wait for the fire trucks to ferry water, to fetch water to your location. So yes, that is some of the challenges that we're facing, as well as the fact that, last week we heard agriculture is another area that we're also feeling the crunch in. Yesterday the media had a very interesting interaction with the former chief medical officer, now government advisor on the health insurance, Dr. Patrick Martin, and he, gave us some really good insights in terms of how climate change is impacting us, our children, and all of that. So, we're really in some critical times in this country, and I think that's why it's good for us to interact with our leaders, whether it be the current prime minister, former prime minister, the opposition leader, to express our views and our expectations from those people that we empower to run our country. Yes, so at this point in time, we'll quickly acknowledge the people who make this program possible, TDC and Caribou, and we'll continue the discussion on the other side of the break.
People make the world go.
Season 2 add color to your home with Berger Paints. Get ready to deck the halls with 20% off Berger 303 and Everglow. Plus, purchase any Berger product and get a chance to win US $1,000 grocery shopping spree just in time for Christmas. Visit any Berger hardware partner today. Offer ends December 31st. Prize draws on December 15th. Terms and conditions apply.
Maybe it's the way the brilliant gold liquid reflects our sunshine, or how the bright blue of its label mirrors the clear Caribbean skies overhead. Maybe it's the fresh, crisp taste of this beastly cold beer on a scorching hot day. Maybe it's even the way it brings us all together. But one thing is for sure, Carib is very much a part of who we are wherever we're from in the Caribbean. Carib. It's the way we play. Drink responsibly.
People make the world go
back here on Inside the News. Yes, so we're taking a quick look at some of the major news the major topics that made the news across the island over the last week, and then we're just diving into them to, go beyond the headlines with you to see how these topics and issues are impacting you on your daily life and find solutions to those problems here in St. Kitts and Nevis. Yeah, so the ongoing water situation has long been a problem here. Not just in St. Kitts and Nevis, right across the Caribbean region. I know Antigua and Barbuda, for example, has had a long running problem for example, with its water situation down there, and they're trying to find solutions to fix that. Even though they have desalination, that's one option, but they're also trying to find other ways and means to be able to tackle that issue. And because of the changing climatic conditions, you cannot predict when rains are coming, even though you know when the rainy period is, or when is the rainy period. But now those rainy periods are being extremely hot. For example, earlier this year we recorded the hottest July and August on record, and now they're saying October was also one of the hottest periods as well. El Nino, which is oftentimes responsible for that, is pushing dry conditions across the region well into the new year, according to Met officials. According to the Caribbean Hydrology and Meteorology Center in Barbados. So we can expect drier conditions for the Christmas period well into the new year. And even when we look at what's happening in the United States, for example, what is supposed to be the wet conditions and snowy, damp conditions, they're practically having summer type weather in some areas. They're feeling the snow on cold fronts on some days, and then other days, it's extremely warm, for that particular time of the year. So we'll hear a bit now from Prime Minister Drew on the ongoing water situation and what they've been doing to tackle that particular problem.
We have found water. The first tests have shown that the water is potable, meaning that it's drinkable. So it's good water that was found. And it is the largest single well in St. Kitts that possibly would have been discovered up to this point. The largest single well, producing somewhere between 700,000 to 1 million gallons, and they are developing a method to allow that well to last at least 40 years. That will resolve the water in Cayon. However, you need to do what is called the 72-hour test. The 72-hour test require a particular type of piping, which we don't have here. And they ordered the piping, but because of supply chain issues, that has slowed down the process. But those are on the way. They might be here. So those pipes go in, and they allow for a 72-hour evaluation. Because if you go in, you might find good water and assume that the water is good. But what the 72-hour test does is allow that water to continue to flow from between the bedrocks and so forth, and so you can test that water flowing. So just in case there is an issue, you would pick it up before you make that water available to the people of Cayon and St. Kitts and Nevis. So it's a matter of safety and following World Health Organization standards. We are not going to compromise that. So there might be a little bit of delay, but we think we are in a good position to accept that delay, because it's about safety. Safety first. Thus far, it looks very, very good. But we just want to make sure that international standards, which we have always been following here in St. Kitts and Nevis, so that when that water is available, we know that people's safety is really protected. So that is where we are with it. So I'm almost certain that those piping would be here. They have already been ordered and so forth, so they should be on their way. So that is where we are at with the water situation. However, nonetheless, what we did for persons who were so severely affected by the water, we had a process of providing them with water tanks. I want to clear up that. I know you have a question ranking, but since we're on the issue of water, let me clear it up. I want to clear up that and say that we provided the tanks to the persons who are most severely affected. Everybody saw, it just happened to be my constituency, that the people of Cayon and St. Peter's in some areas were, significantly affected as a result of the shortage of water because of the drought that we are suffering as a result of climate change. And so we know that in the previous administration, for example, they gave garbage bins. We know that they gave garbage bins. So what if, and we think that it was the responsible thing to do to get those tanks to those who are most severely affected Because we would send the fire truck and the water truck, and they can't hold enough water to last them for days. We almost had to send the fire truck and the water truck on a daily basis because they would have these little buckets. We understand that they don't have the extra cash to pick up a tank because after the assessment you recognize how challenging it was. And then we said if the government before could have given garbage those who are more severely affected. But what is a sustainable plan? And that has helped significantly. And what is a sustainable plan? Because remember before that one extra well was dug by the previous, drilled by the previous administration. Not one water tank was given out to the people to ease their burdens. Not 1 gallon of, and this week I am told by water that Thursday they're going to turn on the pump at Timothy Hill because we are getting an extra 400,000 gallons of water, and that is going to serve Frigate Bay area and the southeast, which has been significantly affected area. And the water that we used to draw from Bastille to go there will now stay in Bastille and go to St. Peter's and so forth. So even before the desal plant is constructed, we will see improvement in the water delivery to the Frigate Bay area, the southeast peninsula area before Christmas, and also we'll see improvement in the St. Peter's Bastille area as well. And when the well comes on in Keon, that would help significantly Keon and the surrounding communities. But we are also picking up because of the drought. Other areas might be affected as a result. And that is why we are bringing on the 2 million gallon desal plant, which is going to add renewable energy to that. So we are dealing with the water issue. We inherited a serious water issue where nothing was done, absolutely nothing was done to add an extra gallon to our water source or any type of resource given so that people can better store water and help to make sure that they have water available. None of that, so we have done that. So just to finally say that we are moving along with what we see in Keon. We are very, very encouraged by preliminary data, and as soon as those pipes get into St. Kitts, we will do the 72-hour test, and once that test shows that the water is potable, it will be connected to our water system, and that will be an extra 700 to 1 million gallons per day.
People make the world go
Yes. So there we heard Prime Minister Dr. Terence Drew, speaking on the water situation and the expectations that the more water will be coming on stream, which will alleviate some of the challenges that we're facing here in St. Kitts and Nevis with water. I know we all like to have water turned on 24 hours a day, but at this point in time, it's conserve, and be able to use water sparingly and not have it be wasted, right? Because we're still purchasing water, we're still trying to find alternatives, and we're still drilling for more water here in St. Kitts and Nevis. Yes. So that is some of what we heard this week from Prime Minister Dr. Terence Drew surrounding issues and topics facing St. Kitts and Nevis and issues facing the country and people here in St. Kitts and Nevis. We just took a look at two of them, and we heard the Prime Minister responding to two of the issues that we have. I know, CBI has long been the talked about issue, and what is always going to be there at the forefront, no matter what other issues we are facing. That one is critical for us here in St. Kitts and Nevis. As I said earlier, it's affecting the agriculture sector. it's impacting our daily lives. We recently had one of the schools in St. Kitts and Nevis that turned off, that sent the children home for 1 day or 2 days thereabout, because there was no water at the school at the time. So for the safety sake of the children, they sent them home for that day. So this is one of the major issues facing us here in St. Kitts and Nevis. But we'll take one final break. And I was told that former Prime Minister Dr. Timothy Harris, he gave a statement a bit earlier. I did not listen to the full statement, but I think they said he addressed double salary and some other issues that some other areas that he think are issues facing us. And we're trying to see if we can get that in before the program ends. But we have to acknowledge our partners one more time before we go. And then we'll continue with the discussion here on Win FM.
People make the world go round.
50,000?
50,000?
$50,000? Win big with TDC! Win up to $50,000 cash in the TDC Mega Rewards Mega Raffle! To enter, you must be a Mega Rewards member or sign up to TDC Mega Rewards Loyalty Program. Shop at our TDC retail stores or online at shoptdcgroup.com to receive one entry for every $250 spent. Draws take place from July to November. Win $10,000 every month with your entry rolled over so you can win even more.
Yes, this is 50.
Terms and conditions apply.
Maybe it's the way the brilliant gold liquid reflects our sunshine, or how the bright blue of its label mirrors the clear Caribbean skies overhead. Maybe it's the fresh, crisp taste of this beastly cold beer on a scorching hot day. Maybe it's even the way it brings us all together. But one thing is for sure, Carib is very much a part of who we are wherever we're from in the Caribbean. Carib, it's the way we play. Drink responsibly.
People make the world go
And we're back on Inside the News here on Win FM. I'm German Abel, sitting in today. I'm in the hot seat, and we're discussing, major issues facing St. Kitts and Nevis. We're in the Christmas Carnival season, which means it's budget season. It's budget time, where major discussions are being had surrounding putting the proposals and projects and initiatives together. Last week we started that discussion in terms of what people expect to see included in the 2024 budget cycle. The budget will be read next month, or the appropriations will be tabled next month, and then the debates will begin. And people have been, weighing in. Some say that we definitely need to have a significant increase, or see a significant increase in the appropriations or the allocations for the agriculture sector here in St. Kitts and Nevis, which has long been basically what people have been describing as one of the underutilized sectors to bring economic benefits to us here in St. Kitts and Nevis. A report published, and with information from the department and the Ministry of Agriculture, indicated that St. Kitts and Nevis continues to lose hundreds of millions of dollars, almost $200 million, which would equate to probably something like 60 to 70 million US dollars annually when it comes to, on average, to food being imported into St. Kitts and Nevis. And if much of that is passed, much of that money that we spend on imported food is passed on to local farmers and vendors, then the sector will be flourishing more than it is right now. That's what's being bandied. But how do we, and this question keeps coming up every time, the topic is discussed and I'm here, is how do we get farmers to be more consistent with their productions, as well as consistent in putting forward high quality produce that people can use. Additionally, so that's one side, and the other side of the coin is, how do we get people to eat more locally grown foods, rather than the well packaged food stuff that we see on the shelves? And I'm not knocking anybody who has a preference for imported foods, but how do we get people to better be able to understand the need for them to eat more locally grown produce? Right. Former Chief Medical Officer Dr. Patrick Martin yesterday, in a media engagement, said we have been seeing a number. Okay, so NCDs continue to be the leading cause of death for people in St. Kitts and Nevis, and this trend continues over the last several years, and we've been hearing it. We've been hearing health officials continue to drive home this point that this is a major issue for us here in St. Kitts and Nevis. And he gave some statistics regarding that. He said for diabetes and people who die from complications of diabetes accounts for 2 out of every 3 deaths being recorded in St. Kitts and Nevis. And that is not a good statistic for us. And our birth rate has actually been decreasing. And he's been speaking candidly to the media about this particular topic, these topics, because it impacts us as a country when the core crop of people who should be building out St. Kitts and Nevis in the generations to come are not doing that, which then means that the people who are working now and those who are going to retire in a few years will not necessarily be benefiting from the fruits of their labor, because the people who should technically be turning over the country to support those who are now retiring are not necessarily doing that. So it's one of two things. Either we make more children or we bring in more skilled labor to continue, to build out St. Kitts and Nevis. And that was a very interesting point. We've all been talking about the issue of gun violence that we've been seeing on the streets of St. Kitts and Nevis. And, the point was again reiterated yesterday that we are paying more for... Okay, we have a caller. Caller, good morning. Caller, good morning. Caller? I guess that caller is distracted. Yes. So he was saying that at this point in time, we are paying more to treat someone who has been impacted by gunshot injuries or anything of that nature than to maintain the hospital for one day. And some people might say, that's an exaggeration. But when you sit down and you rationalize the figures and the numbers, you get a better understanding as to why that reality is so and the numbers remain so stark. So it's interesting. All of this has to be taken into consideration when we discuss the whole idea of the 2024 budget, because at the end of the day, it takes all of us here in St. Kitts and Nevis to better understand and make the country a better place for you, me, and the children to grow and play. Right? And it starts with us expressing what we expect to see in the budget, and we hope, will be included, and also for us to keep politicians accountable for everything that they do and say. It's one thing for us to say, listen, I vote you in and I expect you to do this, that, and the other. But when you're wrong, you have to say you're wrong. And this goes across the board, and this goes right across the region, because we don't hold our politicians accountable all the time when they're not accomplishing what they said they're accomplishing, or when they're going wrong. Right. And on that note, I will take a break to bring you the headline news, and then we will continue with the discussion on the other side of the break, and where I'll get a piece of what Dr. Harris said this morning in terms of his national address. So stick and stay tuned. The headline news is up next, and I'll be back on the other side of the break.
Found the sound. 98.9 Win FM.
We now bring you the headline news. The headline news is brought to you by Caribbean Alliance, KDP Enterprises, The Grange, and Carib Brewery.
Did you know that the Grange Healthcare Facility is the first purpose-built, non-governmental healthcare organization on St. Kitts? It's situated at Otley's, 7 miles east of Basseterre in beautifully landscaped surroundings. The Grange has a team of highly trained professionals and provides care that's rated as being comparable with UK and North American standards. The Grange offers varied accommodations to suit your individual needs, and our all-inclusive packages make the cost of care per hour the most competitive on the island. Services include convalescent care for all ages, daycare facilities for older adults, rehabilitation services, and training and continuing education for healthcare providers. For more information, call 466-5525 or 465-8020. Fax 466-8221 or email thegrangehealth@gmail.com or visit our website at www.grangehealthcarefacility.com.
With over a century of perfection behind the Mackeson name, a smooth blend with perfect balance and richness, it's no wonder Mackeson Triple Stout has a legacy of perfection. Enjoyed the world over. Introducing our new look with the same great taste. Mackeson. All hail the king.
Please drink responsibly.
Shipping your cargo shouldn't be a hassle. It can be as easy as a single call to Amerijet International, your worldwide cargo transportation solution. We provide all the services you need to ship your goods anywhere in the world, whether your shipment is fresh, frozen, large or small, alive or hazardous. You can count on Amerijet to deliver it safe and sound. Amerijet International, by land, sea or air, we get it there. For more information, visit us online at www.amerijet.com or call us at KDP Enterprises at 466-9595.
When it comes to the important things in life, your health, your education, your choice of a life partner, and and of course your insurance provider. Only the best will do. Caribbean Alliance Insurance is the only insurance company in the Eastern Caribbean with an A excellent rating. We have a robust 3-tier reinsurance strategy that protects our policyholders from multiple catastrophes, even if they occur in quick succession. We spread our risks over 18 territories, ensuring minimal impact to individual territories when a disaster strikes. We provide an excellent claims experience. Claim settlement is usually between 24 to 48 hours. Our A excellent rating means that you are more secure with us. Contact us for motor, property, marine, public liability, employer's liability, and other policies. Dalil Walwyn, people you can trust. Local agent for Caribbean Alliance Insurance. Tomorrow secured.
That was the WINNFM headline news.
With the WINNFM Midday News, I am Kevon Brown. Our top stories. United Nations Secretary General on Guyana, Venezuela says he trusts both parties will demonstrate good faith while International Court of Justice works. St. Vincent and the Grenadines Prime Minister Ralph Gonsalves embarking on mission to Caracas. In Dominica, major uplifts for the capital Rosso with multi-million-dollar loan. Internationally, the World Health Organization's Director General, Dr. Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus, in addressing the United Nations Security Council, says nowhere and no one is safe in Gaza. Now the details. In an official statement from the United Nations, from the spokesman of the Secretary General, Stéphane Dujarric, on Guyana and Venezuela, he delivered remarks that said the Secretary General trusts that both parties will demonstrate good faith while the International Court of Justice does its job.
You will have seen that last night we issued a statement on Venezuela in which the Secretary General said he was following with concern the recent escalation of tensions between Guyana and Venezuela over the border controversy between the two countries. The Secretary General said he trusts both parties will demonstrate good faith and avoid any action that would aggravate or extend the controversy, which is now before the International Court of Justice in The Hague, in the Netherlands.
The United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres wants Venezuela and Guyana to refrain from aggravating the border dispute and instead to allow the International Court of Justice to do its job, as the matter of the rightful ownership of the Essequibo region is before the court. During the November 7th Prime Minister's press conference, the Honorable Dr. Drew said St. Kitts and Nevis stands by the mandate that the Caribbean should be a zone of peace and there should be no compromise. When asked about the stance of St. Kitts and Nevis on the Guyana-Venezuela border conflict,
CARICOM has put out a statement. I think that was seen. But as you know, St. Kitts and Nevis, we have relations with both Guyana and we have relations also with Venezuela. Just recently, we celebrated the 40th anniversary. Our position is that this region is a region of peace. And as I've said before, that we will do all we can to control this region remains a region of peace. And so I know that discussions are taking place. I am not in a position to speak to all the specifics of those discussions. But the thrust of those discussions is to make sure that we remain a zone of peace and that the best position is reached to ensure that. That is where we are at with respect to our position with Venezuela and Guyana. And I think, well, I know the foreign minister mentioned it in his statement when he spoke at the ceremony, small ceremony, to commemorate the 40th year of establishment with respect to our relations between Guyana and, Venezuela and St. Kitts and Nevis. So that is our position, that we'll continue to make sure that we put our position forward and help in the process that this area remains a zone of peace and the best position is reached with respect to these two nations. And we're not going to compromise.
On November 14th, the International Court of Justice will hear Guyana's request for provisional measures to be taken against Venezuela. Venezuela will host a referendum on December 3rd to decide whether it will annex 2/3 of Guyana. In regional news, St. Vincent and the Grenadines Prime Minister Ralph Gonsalves embarking on mission to Caracas. In Dominica, major uplifts for the capital Roseau with multi-million-dollar loan. Those reports from Carib Update.
Vincentian Prime Minister Dr. Ralph Gonsalves is flying to Caracas this weekend for a one-day visit after stating in Kingston Friday that the border controversy between Venezuela and Guyana troubles him immensely. Speaking in Kingston Friday, he said he is going to Caracas because he has what he described as some matters that needed to be addressed. He did not clarify what those so-called matters are and was not prepared to answer questions about this general statement. But subsequently, he made uninvited comments on the issue.
The controversy between Guyana and Venezuela is one which troubles me greatly. I just want to see the principles of international law followed, that there be peace, there be no use or threat of force in this particular controversy. And as Guyana pursues its case before the International Court of Justice, I'm hopeful that that both sides will still have conversations, if not on the specific issue of the border controversy, on other matters, their neighbors, including respect for international law, the principles of international law, and that no force or threat of force.
The Dominica capital, Roseau, will soon get a more than $40 million facelift. The parliament there on Friday approved the government securing a loan from the Saudi Fund for Development for the makeover of the city. Finance Minister Irvin McIntyre brought the bill to Parliament for approval.
It resolved that in accordance with Section 3.1 of the Loans Act, Chapter 6405, as amended, this Honourable House authorizes the Minister for Finance to borrow a sum not exceeding 41 million United States dollars, equivalent to 111,392,900 Eastern Caribbean dollars, from the Saudi Fund for Development for an infrastructure rehabilitation project in Roseau on the following terms. The repayment period, 28 years, that's semi-annual payments. Interest rate, 2.5%. Grace period, 8 years.
He spoke to the significance of the project.
This Labour Party government of Dominica has been making a concerted effort to modernize and build resilience in public infrastructure island-wide. This is to ensure public safety, enhance the aesthetics of the country, improve access and connectivity, increase social interaction across communities, and support Dominica's economic development.
MP Melissa Skerritt, who represents the city in the Parliament, welcomed the development.
And I must say that I am particularly excited because this is a long-awaited project, the Roseau Enhancement Project, where these funds will be allocated towards. And this project is a project that has been in the pipeline for many years, before I even entered politics. But over the past few years, I was determined to get this off the ground so that we can finally modernize our city of Roseau.
MP Skerritt hailed the pending project as a game changer.
Our goal is to breathe new life into our city, enhancing its aesthetic appeal, fostering economic growth, and providing our citizens with a city that we can all be proud of. This project will allow for the construction of new and covered drains, smooth sidewalks with benches, upgraded lights, widened roads, which will allow for more parking spaces.
Prime Minister Roosevelt Skerritt says the plan to overhaul the city cues it to his government's plan for overall national development.
This is an important project, It'll have a multiplicity of benefits to the country. The terms are most generous, and it will allow us to complete the project, benefit from it, and have enough time before we start paying the loans, and make provisions down the road, 8 years now, to start repaying the loans. And I think this is a great day, not only for the city of Roseau, but for the whole country. And Dominicans from all walks of life will hail this as one of the most important interventions by this government.
We now bring you these international reports. The World Health Organization's Director General, Dr. Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus, in addressing the United Nations Security Council, says nowhere and no one is safe in Gaza. He went on to emphasize that a child is killed on average every 10 minutes in the Gaza Strip.
The situation on the ground is impossible to describe. Hospital corridors crammed with the injured, the sick, the dying, morgues overflowing, surgery without anesthesia, tens of thousands of displaced people sheltering at hospitals, families crammed into overcrowded schools, desperate for food and water. More than 10,800 people have now been killed in Gaza, almost 70% of them women and children. On average, a child is killed every 10 minutes in Gaza. 1.5 million people have been displaced and are looking for shelter anywhere they can find it. But nowhere and no one is safe. Nowhere and no one is safe. As more and more people move to a smaller and smaller space, overcrowding is increasing the risks of outbreaks of diarrheal and respiratory disease and skin infections. Of course, WHO is on the ground in Gaza, alongside our partners, to support health workers who are physically and mentally exhausted and are doing their best in unimaginable conditions. In addition to caring for the 27,000 people who are wounded, many of them with life-threatening injuries, they're trying to manage the regular health needs of more than 2 million people. More than 180 women give birth in Gaza every single day. There are 9,000 patients on cancer therapy, and there are 350,000 patients with diabetes, heart disease, and hypertension. I visited Al-Shifa Hospital in Gaza 5 years ago in 2018. I toured a dialysis ward and a neonatal intensive care unit and spoke with health workers and patients. Even then, in 2018 in Gaza, conditions were extremely difficult for health workers. Now their work is impossible, and they're directly in the firing line. Since the 7th of October, WHO has verified more than 250 attacks on healthcare in Gaza and the West Bank, in addition to 25 attacks on healthcare in Israel, hospitals, clinics, patients, ambulances. Last week, WHO documented 5 attacks on 5 hospitals in one day. In the past 48 hours alone, 4 hospitals have been put out of action, representing some 430 beds. More than 100 of our UN colleagues have been killed and counting. And as we speak, there are reports of firing outside the Al-Shifa and Rantisi hospitals. half of the Gaza Strip's 36 hospitals and 2/3 of its primary healthcare centers are not functioning at all. Those that are functioning are operating way beyond their capacities. The health system is on its knees.
World Health Organization Director General Dr. Tedros Ghebreyesus.
The Rafah crossing in Egypt, where we understand, according to a journalist on the ground, there's been an attack at the Shabura camp in Rafah. The journalist on the ground is Abu Nukira, who has been narrating what's happened there. He says the Israeli army crossed all the red lines in Gaza. He targeted ambulances, crew, civil defense, journalists, and so on. And now there's been an aggression, in his words, in the city of Rafah, south of the Gaza Strip. He says that the Israelis targeted Shabura camp in Rafah. There was a huge explosion, and occupation planes had destroyed the Ashura family's house. So the Israelis targeting not just northern areas of the Palestinian territory, but also southern areas, including Rafah, not far from the border with Egypt. Let's speak to Osama Hamdan, who's a senior Hamas leader and spokesman. He's joining us on this Al Jazeera News Hour. Mr. Hamdan, thank you very much for speaking to us. Before I ask you for your reaction to what's been happening in Riyadh today, perhaps a comment on what's happening right now in Gaza. We've seen Al-Shifa Hospital targeted in Israeli attacks, but also attacks in the southern areas of Gaza, in Khan Yunis, and just in the last few minutes, as we've heard, in Rafah city.
Well, thank you for having me. In fact, the Israeli genocide against the Palestinians is continuous. We are talking about what's happening in Riyadh after 35 days of this Israeli attack against the Palestinians, destroying the infrastructure, attacking the hospitals. More than 22 hospitals now are not working. They are out of run because of the Israeli attacks, including Al-Shifa hospital. We need exactly what we need from the Arabs and the Muslim leaders in Riyadh. Major 3 points. The first one was to stop the Israeli attack, the Israeli genocide against the Palestinians. And this is supposed to happen in different ways. Cutting the relations, considering Israel as a state against the international law, boycotting Israel, stop all the political relations with Israel. This is the first point. The second point which we are seeking is to send the aids for the Palestinians, humanitarian aid, medical aids, fuel, so the Palestinians can continue standing against the Israelis. The third one, which is very important, to talk at one voice that the Palestinian cause must be solved on the basis of the Palestinian rights, not on any other basis. The peace process in the last 3 decades was built on the needs of Israel, what Israel wants, and this is the cause of the failure. So they have that in order to give.
Do you feel that what was said by the leaders attending this meeting, this emergency meeting of the Arab League and the OIC was enough? They condemned the Israeli aggression on the Gaza Strip. They called on the Security Council to take a decisive and binding decision that imposes a cessation of aggressions. But as we've been speaking here on Al Jazeera about, there's no clear way to achieve all of this. There seems to be division within these two organizations. Were you satisfied with any of what was said today in Riyadh?
The condemnation is a step. It's the minor and the first step. We have to move forward. We are talking about actions. We don't need speeches. We have watched the United Nations, the Security Council. It was under the control of the Americans, who supported, who financed, who sent weapons for Israel. So there is no need to go back to the same story. We need an action from the Arab and the Muslim countries. If they move, I am sure that the United States will change its position. So I think there is a good chance for the Arab and the Muslim countries to make an action, and any action from those countries will have its very important impact on what is happening, and it will be effective in stopping the genocide against the Palestinians.
Mr. Hamdan, the Qatari Emir Sheikh Tamim bin Hamad Al Thani, when he was speaking in Riyadh a short while ago, said that Qatar is continuing to make efforts in the mediation to release more captives, more Hamas captives. Can you tell us what the latest is on that? Is Hamas planning to release more captives?
Well, there is a very important Qatari efforts as what was according and the Egyptian side. And we know that the brothers in Qatar, they are doing their best, and we are reacting positively to their action and to their mediation. But unfortunately, the Americans are not helping, and the Israelis are undermining all the process. So I can't talk about the details just now because it's still just the negotiations and talks. Whenever we came to a conclusion, we will talk about that conclusion directly, inshallah.
What would it take for Hamas to release more captives today?
Well, it's clear that we have said from day number one, we are ready to release them. We want to release them, in fact, but we need the Israelis to cease the ceasefire so we can do that in a right way and without any fears this may cause damages. And the second point, the Israelis have to open. We are talking about the humanitarian step. They have to open Rafah crossing, allowing the needs of the Palestinians, including the humanitarian aid and fuel, to come inside Gaza. The Israelis are not accepting that, so this is the problem.
As we speak right now, Mr. Hamdan, the Israelis seem to have begun their siege of Gaza City. We've, of course, talked about the situation at Al-Shifa Hospital. What can you tell us? The Israelis claim to be making a lot of advances, and they claim to be dealing a lot of blows, rather, to Hamas. What can you tell us about the state of the fighting on the ground right now? Is Israel effectively in control today of northern Gaza?
Well, the Israelis is attacking the hospital, the Shifa hospital. I assure you, all the lies which they have said will be discovered as a false issues. The resistance is still resisting them in all the streets of Gaza, and I believe they will sink day after the day in the sands of Gaza. They will not have any victory in Gaza, and the resistance is still fighting the Israelis. They are using a huge weapons, but heavy weapons, but they are not making a very sure step against the resistance. So they are targeting the civilians, targeting the hospitals, at least to make more pressure on the resistance, and also to show their street that they are doing their job.
Same time, Arab and Muslim leaders, they're gathering today in Saudi Arabia to discuss the Israel-Gaza conflict. Scheduled summits of the Arab League and the Organisation of Islamic Cooperation have been merged in response to the situation in Gaza. Let's take you there with our security correspondent, Frank Gardner. And Frank, just talk us through what we might expect to hear from this summit. What will they want to achieve today?
Right, well, this is an extraordinary event in the sense that I can't think of a similar event that has brought together 57 Muslim nations together with the Arab League at a time like this. It's been called an emergency summit, although one militant group in Gaza has said, well, it's hardly an emergency summit if it's taking place 35 days into the war. Nevertheless, they are going to try to come up with a unified response, the gist of which is going to be a call for an immediate ceasefire in Gaza and more humanitarian aid, an end to Israeli occupation of Palestinian territories. But behind the scenes, what's really interesting is what Arab ministers are telling me. They don't want to be quoted personally on it, but the stuff they're saying is really quite worrying, I think, for the West, which is that they are accusing the West, specifically the United States, but also the UK, of double standards, of hypocrisy. They're saying, you, the West, condemned Russia for its killing of civilians in Ukraine. Yet when it comes to Gaza, that condemnation is either muted or pretty absent. And interestingly, the Deputy Secretary General of the Arab League has given an interview to a Saudi newspaper in which he says, actually, Russia and China understand this region better than the West does. Now, he doesn't speak for everybody here, obviously, but That's a worrying trend, I think. There is a feeling of despair that the West is not doing enough to rein in what's going on in Gaza, this horrendous rising death toll of civilians. And don't forget that the West has got a lot of bases here. The Americans have got military bases in Kuwait, in Oman, in the Emirates and so on. But you speak to delegates from those countries and they're really quite embarrassed at the stance of the West on this. Look, most of the countries coming here, they're not particularly fond of Hamas. I mean, Iran is here. They are. The Iranian delegation is here. I've just seen President Ibrahim Raisi walk past me a few minutes ago. And that's unusual in itself for him to come to Saudi Arabia. But most of them are not particularly fond of Hamas. But all of that is on the back burner compared to the enormous anxiety and angst that people are feeling at this rising death toll. And there's something else, which is a concern that out on the streets and in the cafes and in people's living rooms, there is a rising anger here in this region at this death toll, at the fact that the West seems to be incapable of stopping the carnage in Gaza, and people worry that that could get out of control and lead to radicalization.
And Frank, many people will know that organisations including the UN have been trying to come to some sort of consensus or agreement on what its response would be to the conflict between Israel and Gaza. What hopes are there that this summit will be unified, aligned in issuing a response that states the position of the members there at that summit?
Well, they're going to have to go for the lowest common denominator. You know, the Iranians are going to want to push further, I think, than the Saudis will. So not everybody's going to get exactly what they want. So President Ibrahim Raisi, the Iranian president, a few hours ago as he left Tehran airport, he said, this isn't a time for talking, it's a time for action. That's not necessarily how people in the conservative governments in this region feel, because they are very worried about escalation. Remember that Iran supports what's known as proxy militias, the Houthis in Yemen, Hezbollah in Lebanon, various militias in Syria and Iraq. Those are not supported by Saudi Arabia and its Gulf Arab allies. So there are differences of opinions, which is why I think they're going to go for, as I say, the lowest common denominator, which is to say, stop the fighting, have a ceasefire immediately, not just a humanitarian pause, but a ceasefire, get more humanitarian aid in, and pursue a long-term solution to the Palestinian-Israeli question. They want to see an end to Israeli occupation of Palestinian territories. They're saying otherwise this is just going to go on in an endless cycle of violence.
Wall Street's main indexes ended with big gains on Friday, boosted by heavyweight tech and growth stocks and lower Treasury yields. The Dow climbed more than 1%, the S&P 500 added 1.5%, and the Nasdaq soared more than 2%, its biggest one-day percentage gain since May. The rally comes after declines in the previous session, which followed hawkish comments from Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell about interest rates. That ended the longest winning streak in 2 years for the S&P 500 and Nasdaq. And Abhay Deshpande, Chief Investment Officer at Centerstone Investors, says it reflects persistent investor uncertainty in the current environment.
It's the same basic set of confusion that people have been facing, I mean, for quite some time now, right? There's this idea of maybe a recession around the corner, there's inflation, there's what's the Fed's going to do? And all of those cross currents are causing, I think, just confusion.
Mega-cap stocks that have propelled the market higher this year saw big gains Friday, with NVIDIA gaining about 3% and Meta Platforms and Microsoft each adding 2.5%. Shares of Illumina dropped 8% as the genetic testing company trimmed its full-year profit forecast for the second straight quarter. On tap for next week, the closely watched Consumer Price Index report, along with data on producer prices and retail sales, which will further shape interest rate projections.
You are listening to the Midday News on WINNFM 98.9. The headlines United Nations Secretary General on Guyana, Venezuela says he trusts both parties will demonstrate good faith while International Court of Justice works. St. Vincent and the Grenadines Prime Minister Ralph Gonsalves embarking on mission to Caracas. In Dominica, major uplifts for the capital Roseau with multi-million-dollar loan. Internationally, the World Health Organization's Director General, Dr. Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus, in addressing the United Nations Security Council, says nowhere and no one is safe in Gaza. Thank you for listening.
That was the WINNFM Headline News. The headline news was brought to you by Caribbean Alliance, KDP Enterprises, The Grange, and Carib Brewery.
When it comes to the important things in life, your health, your education, your choice of a life partner, and of course your insurance provider, only the best will do. Caribbean Alliance Insurance is the only insurance company in the Eastern Caribbean with an A excellent rating. We have a robust 3-tier reinsurance strategy that protects our policyholders from multiple catastrophes, even if they occur in quick succession. We spread our risks over 18 territories, ensuring minimal impact to individual territories when a disaster strikes. We provide an excellent claims experience. Claim settlement is usually between 24 to 48 hours. Our A excellent rating means that you are more secure with us. Contact us for motor, property, marine, public liability, employer's liability, and other policies. Delisle Walwyn, people you can trust. Local agent for Caribbean Alliance Insurance. Tomorrow secured.
Shipping your cargo shouldn't be a hassle. It can be as easy as a single call to Amerijet International, your worldwide cargo transportation solution. We provide all the services you need to ship your goods anywhere in the world, whether your shipment is fresh, frozen, large or small, alive or hazardous. You can count on Amerijet to deliver it safe and sound. Amerijet International, by land, sea or air, we get it there. For more information, visit us online at www.amerijet.com or call us at KDP Enterprises at 466-9595.
Maybe it's the way the brilliant gold liquid reflects our sunshine, or how the bright blue of its label mirrors the clear Caribbean skies overhead. Maybe it's the fresh, crisp taste of this beastly cold beer on a scorching hot day. Maybe it's even the way it brings us all together. But one thing is for sure, Carib is very much a part of who we are wherever we're from in the Caribbean. Carib. It's the way we play. Drink responsibly.
Did you know that the Grange Healthcare Facility is the first purpose-built, non-governmental healthcare organization on St. Kitts? It's situated at Otley's, 7 miles east of Basseterre in beautifully landscaped surroundings. The Grange has a team of highly trained professionals and provides care that's rated as being comparable with UK and North American standards. The Grange offers varied accommodations to suit your individual needs, and our all-inclusive packages make the cost of care per hour the most competitive on the island. Services include convalescent care for all ages, daycare facilities for older adults, rehabilitation services, and training and continuing education for healthcare providers. For more information, call 466-5525 or 465-8020. Fax 466-8221 or email thegrangehealth@gmail.com or visit our website at www.grangehealthcarefacility.com.
We're different. We're 98.9. 98.9. Win FM.
People make the world go
Maybe it's the way the brilliant gold liquid reflects our sunshine, or how the bright blue of its label mirrors the clear Caribbean skies overhead. Maybe it's the fresh, crisp taste of this beastly cold beer on a scorching hot day. Maybe it's even the way it brings us all together. But one thing is for sure, Carib is very much a part of who we are wherever we're from in the Caribbean. Carib, it's the way we play. Drink responsibly.
People make the world go round.
And we're back here on Inside the News, and we go straight to the phone lines. Caller, good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Who all do you have there with you?
We don't have any guests today.
All right.
It's an open forum today. We took a look at the CBI and the water situation, but you can go ahead.
Right. Good afternoon to all the listeners at home and abroad. Happy birthday to all our birthdays. And condolences to all those who are grieving. I want to talk about some statistics, this excess death story. Dr. Martin spoke about.
Yes.
I personally, as a statistician, a former one, would have preferred the CMO, the present CMO, to deal with the figures. Why I say so? When you have information from political appointees, even if they're qualified, there is always the motive why the figures are given. Now, I guess you're familiar with the data, are you?
Yes, I was at the forum yesterday.
Right. Now, I heard him comparing 2010 to 2019. As you are aware, the highest number of deaths by homicide were the highest in 2011. You recall that? I think it was 36 or 35, somewhere there. So if you start to compare 2010 when it was lower and 2019 when it would have been higher, what are you doing? And does the figure, when you give the total deaths, how are those who died by gunshot or by violence, how are they classified? You see what I'm talking about? You have the table in front of you?
I don't have the information in front of me right now.
Yeah, because I said, well, what kind of analysis is that? That is by you're picking, and because whatever base you use is called the base. It affects the percentage-wise and all of that. So I question the method used for the presentation. That's one. Now, number two, the rate, reproduction rate, which is supposed to be 2.1. There are many factors over which we ourselves have control. Our people should know by now, if you're at 1.6, it means that some people are not going to get any pension. Now let's start with our two vigorous family planning project. I call it too vigorous, right? The messages we send, we don't promote enough marriage. And so you find you get a baby, because I have 3 children, right? You get one and you come out from the hospital. You are immediately referred to the family planning, the clinics, where you advise not to get any more. Are you aware of that?
I'm not aware of that.
Oh, well, you're learning. The younger people, the young professionals, often because of their workplace, they do not cater to family formation. When you got to work at the central bank, or was young people that graduate and they go and work in somebody in the business places in town too. They frown upon you getting, if you get one, you get two.
Yeah, but Miss Henry though,
It would affect talking about the weight, eh?
yeah, but on that point though, don't you think it is more of an individual sort of responsibility? Because I've had
individual thing boil up to
right. Because
to the population, you know.
Yeah, because I've had a number of discussions, and after this was after this discussion came up yesterday, the interaction was with females. It actually
they're discouraged.
Not that they're just discouraged, but the
There's
issue
no incentive.
is one, no incentive, but also
Yeah,
a lot of
that's what
people
I'm
are
talking
looking
about.
at
No
factors.
incentive.
Yeah, but a lot of females are also looking at factors such as incentives, as well as the fact that the cost of living to maintain a child, and then somebody argued the position that, listen, you have a lot of people are not necessarily getting married per
That's
se.
what you said. Family
Right.
formation,
But-
stable homes.
But a lot
not
of them are looking
promoted.
at more women are becoming more qualified, and because they're
That's
becoming more
it again,
qualified, they're
professionals.
looking,
At smoker professionals. you
yeah,
know.
they're looking more at the issue of let me
Advancement in
establish
the
my
job.
career first and then consider going along
advancement.
that line. A lot of men are also doing that as well. So, yes, you're right.
But,
a number of
but
factors are in
listen
play.
again. If your job, you are a journalist. Your job requires you to be up and about quite often, right? Are you married? Not getting into your business, yes or no?
No.
All right. Now, sometimes when you look at the job and the conditions under which you work, it does not encourage getting children. As simple as that.
So, what would you recommend, Ms. Henry, in terms of
All right.
the next
Listen
generation?
to my reasoning, right? I have 3 children alive. One died. I said to the young people, said to my daughters, I've been to university. Do not get them before you go to university, right? When you come back, start. I don't say when you come back, don't do anything. But usually you find they go and they come back. And sometimes they're so burdened down with these student loan. A lot of things work against us, you know. The student loan, which is almost equal to your salary in government. They don't see any incentive. Even the incentive they offer are beyond the capability of a single person. And our men seem to be averse to marriage and settling down. Until we take it seriously. So we go along, check the civil service. How many women in graduate positions are married and have children? Very few. And some of them, they don't make an allowance for child rearing, which to me is critical, not even on the industrial side. So you get a child, you don't know, well, I got to work till 5 o'clock. You have a young baby, you may have to nurse it. Nowadays, your mother may be also working. Child rearing and child mining is put beyond. So even when they give, then I said the government, they used to give $25, they now giving $50. Maybe when you're carrying your child, you're paying $95, you're not $100. And some of them don't allow you time to go home and nurse the baby. And the other one is easy access to abortion. Even though abortion is illegal. You ever consider that?
But because that would be another discussion. That's a topic for another discussion.
But have you ever thought about it?
I've never given consideration to that.
You've never?
No.
I give it no.
No, because
Yes.
the thing is, right? And again,
It's a choice, eh? As you say,
it's a choice. But
It's a
is that
choice, but-
something? Is that something that you think would be beneficial at this stage in a society that is actually seeing a slight birth rate decline.
So let's start with the abortion. If you say abortion is illegal, the doctors who practice it should be held accountable. Start there. Because then everybody know. Everybody in a long time where to go to get an abortion. I don't mean somebody up in the alley. Medical doctors, they do it. I don't call anybody name. You go to the clinic, they now saying give the children thing in school. In school, you know. So when they get pregnant now, they are more inclined, sometimes for their own pride, to have an abortion. So if we really want to increase the rate to 2.1, we have two options. Encourage inward migration. People have complained about all these parents come and get a child. They're doing us a favor, right? You aware of that? All the foreigners who come here and get children, they're helping out. It is for us now to do our part. I'm encouraging people. Some of them, they're in relationships 5 years, 10 years, 50. They're not married. And some of our men don't want a responsibility. And you see, the disparity in the education level is also a problem, you know. Are you aware of that? You ever thought about it? Between the male and the female. The female pushing to go higher, and the women get satisfied where they are at. I mean, I taught down at the university center, taught economics first year. And year after year, there were more females. You go to UWI. UWI has more than half of the population at the UWI university are females. So if you find a lot of women come back, they can't find a suitable male. Now somebody may get offended it was suitable. Suitable? You cannot get a suitable male as a partner, as a husband. Because even if you do, and you don't mind, our society will point it out. Oh, where she brighter than him, what she doing with him? You know, that kind of way? Our men need to bring up themselves. So until these things are done, I recommend inward migration, you know. Young people of childbearing age, which is up 24 years, allow them to come in and get children. You see, the Chinese helping out. But a lot of our professionals, you're going to find out later as you get older, it will work against you. You get the high post in the banks, in all the banks in Bastille, in the public service, permanent secretary, assistant secretary, not one child.
Yeah,
you come now to old age.
Yeah,
what you gonna do?
Yeah, but the thing is, right, Miss Henley, it's a case, and this is just me. I just think it's a case of choice. You can either do it or not do it, but yes, it has significant repercussions for a country.
Thank you.
Right, because and that's what Dr. Martin did outline yesterday. You know, when we were asked for when he was asked about what does it mean for St. Kitts and Nevis going forward, you know, he did speak candidly about the potential impact of something like that, and he did mention, you know, we would probably need to look more at inward migration. China has actually moved, or is in the process of moving away from the one-child policy.
They've gone from 1 to 3 now.
Barbados had a similar issue a few years back with the Prime Minister. I don't have a direct quote, but indirectly, you know, suggested
I know Barbados too. So what I'm saying is, but we keep hearing it, you know.
Right.
You hear, we have to change the Social Security thing.
But I think one of the critical issues that we also have to look at, and there's something I mentioned earlier, is the fact that a number of people who are in the prime of their lives, especially men, are being we're losing them to gun violence, right? And that is also going to impact us going forward. But Ms. Henry, 30 seconds, I have to take a break, so I'll just give you 30 seconds, and then you can call back.
Yeah, but just think about what I said, right?
Okay.
All right, then.
All right, thanks. So that was a caller just sharing her views on an intermediate interaction yesterday, and the news reports probably played. Okay, before I take the break, I'll go back to the caller. Caller, good afternoon.
All right. Greetings, my brother.
Greetings.
I would prefer you take a break. I got some points I want to. Anyhow, cut me when you're ready. Tell me to stop when you're ready.
Okay.
All right. Let me go overseas a little bit. The conflict will go on with the Hamas and the people that call themselves Israeli. Remind us to ask this question. We'd like to know what was the name of that space that is now called Israel? What was the name before it was called Israel? We like people to help us with that, you know? Because as far as we know, Israel was a name given to a person, a man by the name of Jacob. So we wanted to know we just want to know what was the name of that space. We don't know about the people. The place what they call Israel, because when you hear the news, you hear in Israel and you understand. So we want to know what was the name of the place. All right, let's come home. Let's come in the Federation a little bit. I may tell you, so much things are going on. So much things going on. We're hearing AIDS, World AIDS Day coming up, and we're hearing the song about it. It's supposed to be on the 1st of December, ain't it?
Yes.
Okay. And then in the mix, even family, we're just hearing about marriage and relationship, and so we put all of that in the mix. All right. Originally, marriage is not what it is. No. Marriage now is, we know what it is. Going to church, some register office, I do, and then you got registration from government and all them things, right? So we want to say that the way it is now is a conspire blind, what you will call conspiracy, by the church removing a big error it is, you know, that is called that make people to turn into sexual zombies, you know. They get out in named age, you know. They remove the original form of marriage, which is sex. When a man and a woman lay down and have sex, they are getting married. So the church, in its conspire blind, removed sex from the pinnacle it was on as the original marriage bond. Because when you look at a child, you see both father and mother. Two becomes one. Ring can't do that. Kiss the bride and kiss the groom can't do that. I do can't do that. Sex alone do that. So the church, in its conspire blind, removes sex from its pinnacle and say that marriage before sex, that form of marriage, what we know, no, which is a fraud. Because we have heard stories from people who go to that form of marriage, and the very next day, the man who's supposed to be the husband is in a hotel room with someone else. Or the woman who's supposed to be the wife continue having sex with the gardener. No. When sex is on the pinnacle that it ought to be, the original marriage bond, a man and a woman will understand that there ought to be no threesome or foursome or fivesome in this relationship.
Okay.
We have sex unto death.
Okay, caller, stick a point right there, right? Sorry to interject, but I have to take a break now. Call back in, continue your point.
I will.
Right,
Yes,
call back in your point, yes. Okay, so yes, as I cut the caller, I have to acknowledge partners. and then we'll continue with the discussion here on Inside the News.
People make the world go
Are you tired of constantly having to repaint? Then it's time to level up your paint game with Harris Paints. With Quantum I-12 technology, Harris gives you better colors that last longer and takes less coats. So this Christmas, level up your savings with 15% off 1 and 5 gallons of top quality Ultima Plus available at TDC. Then, with each purchase, play the Harris mobile game for chances to win the grand prize of $3,000 cash. Now that's a level up only from Harris Paints.
Maybe it's the way the brilliant gold liquid reflects our sunshine, or how the bright blue of its label mirrors the clear Caribbean skies overhead. Maybe it's the fresh, crisp taste of this beastly cold beer on a scorching hot day. Maybe it's even the way it brings us all together. But one thing is for sure, Carib is very much a part of who we are wherever we're from in the Caribbean. Carib, it's the way we play. Drink responsibly.
People make the world go
And we're back here on Inside the News. So we have an open forum today. We're just looking at some of the major news across St. Kitts and Nevis, regionally and internationally. But before we took in the first half of the program, we heard Prime Minister Dr. Prime Minister Dr. Terence Drew. We heard him with the CBI program. He was just responding earlier this week to questions from the media surrounding the program, the numbers, international reports, and so forth. Then we also heard from Dr. Terence Drew, Prime Minister, about the water situation and work that the government has been undertaking in terms of getting, water to people across St. Kitts and Nevis, and one well was actually to be turned on in Timothy Hill. So that was some of what we were discussing in the first hour. Just for context sake, our first caller for the second half of the program, she was talking about, the birth rates, the death rates, and the instances of, I'm trying to correct the correct terminology, but excess deaths, yes. So Dr. Patrick Martin, former Chief Medical Officer, he was talking about, he had a media engagement yesterday where he spoke about excess deaths in St. Kitts and Nevis, and also, he was asked about, the birth rates and so forth, and it was declining here, and he said it was a slight decline. He did not have the correct figures at the time because the birth rate was not necessarily directly what he came to share. So he gave an indication that it was down, but he did not have the official numbers at the time, and he said, we would get those figures at some point, or we can reach out to the public relations officer at the hospital or the Ministry of Health, and we can get that information. So that was the context of our first caller and the second caller as well. So we go back to the phone lines. We have a little bit to hear from former Prime Minister Dr. Timothy Harris. He made a national address today, so we'll get a bit of that from him. But we just go to this caller, and we hear from this caller. Caller, good afternoon. Can you keep your comments a bit short? We have another clip to play. So we lost that caller. So yes, so the phone lines are open, and we go back to the phone lines. Caller, good afternoon.
Yes, I'm going to be short. I just want to correct my family call about the sex thing. The churches do acknowledge sex. If couples are married legally, as they say, and they had no sexual intercourse, the marriage is not considered legal. It is called annulment. You know about that, right?
Yes.
Annulment, even somebody is married where they're married to Spanish money and so. If they never ever had sexual intercourse, you can go to the court and apply for an annulment. Churches give annulment. So what he said is incorrect. The churches, and the thing about sex. Sex, of course, formalizes marriage. But as he said, you can't be married to 100 people, as our men try to do, and our women too. So the blame and the reason why you have to sign papers, so you have the matter of ownership and inheritance becomes an issue. That's why you have to sign. Look, we were legally married. We had children, or we had no children, or whatever. And therefore, when it comes to the assets, you don't have anything, right? You got to have something to prove. So it is not you sign the certificate to say, well, you're wrong. Imagine you die and nothing there. Nothing to prove that you were really married. The man or the woman family will move in and take everything. So there's a reason for it. It's not greed or anything like that. It's just a matter of ensuring the rights of the partners. And family churches and the law acknowledge annulment where there has been no sex in a marriage. Thank you.
All right. Thanks, caller. We are back with this caller. Good afternoon.
I'm sorry about the feedback. We didn't want to miss a word. Okay, let's continue the reasoning.
Can you keep it short? We just want to get in a bit of Dr. Harris, and then you can call back in.
Dr. Harris?
Yes.
Dr. Harris supposed to come on.
No. I was just saying, if you could keep your comments a bit short, because we want to play a bit from what Dr. Harris said this morning.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. The conspire blind by the church by removing sex from its pinnacle is responsible for the havoc that we are having in the sexual world. As we said before, turn people into sexual zombies. Youth at a very young age, because of no respect for sex and what it is all about, because of the saying conspire blind of the church, and the state is an accomplice with them certificate and the this and the that. Foolishness. Sex is marriage, and then we return to that original marriage bond. We'll rid the earth, not the St. Peter Lewis. The figures are 125 times in. Are we right? In terms of people who are infected with the thing in the name. And notice inside of that AIDS, the thing there, what it stands for again? Immunity inside of that, ain't it?
Well, acute immune deficiency.
The word immune or immunity, ain't it?
Well, it's affecting your immune system.
Exactly. And you know what people's immune system, you know how important that is, especially black people. Yeah. So it is a conspire blind by Christendom.
Okay, 30 seconds, caller. Yeah.
And they do it with an intention. And it is sad to see that people of my race not seeing this conspire blind and practicing differently. Blessed love.
All right, thanks, caller. Yes, so that caller was just sharing his views on the issue there. So Yes. So Dr. Timothy Harris gave a national address today. It's a bit short, and then we'll try to get that for you. But I'll just take this caller quickly. Caller, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, sir.
Yes.
And good afternoon to the listeners home and abroad. Carl Brown here. Since you have open line, I would like to touch on the Prime Minister. First question from Mr. Barr. The Prime Minister was asked, how many passports have you signed off on? And there is some Russian on social media campaigning that they need back their money because they have gotten passports and then the passport was taken back, so they need back their money. Right? The Prime Minister Ganga said Timothy Harris signed more passports, and then we didn't ask him that. These people too educated and too dunce at the same time. All he had to say, I signed on 10, and the total number is 12. Right? That's all we wanted from him. Right? He gonna talk about security of this and all kind of thing he doing up. We don't want to hear that. We know that already. What we don't know is how many passports we have out there and how many did Terrence you sign off on. That's simple question, you know. A 3-year-old could answer that question. The other thing is, what are we going to do with this so-called agricultural minister we have here? Non-functional agricultural minister. Dr. Joe and his government not going to fire him. He has produced nothing, no addition, no program, no policy, no upgrade, no upliftment to agriculture. You hear the farmers, you hear the co-op people every week on these talk shows. And all the agriculture minister is talking about is greenhouses. So his plan is to move us away from the soil and do greenhouses. Well, for the agricultural minister, let me give him some history. We had greenhouses under Dr. Douglas. They failed. You see them up and down, all abandoned. We had greenhouses under Dr. Timothy Harris. They failed. You see them up and down, abandoned. Right? So I don't know where he always talking about these greenhouses and things. For what we want to hear from him is that he's going to ask the finance minister for $100 million to be added to agriculture in this upcoming budget, so we can safely move into food security, and we could get into the 2025 by the year 2025.
Okay, caller,
and the fight and the pullback against the farmers and the agricultural people, we need to fire him.
Caller, let's be fair to the minister, right? I'm not defending anybody here, but let us give the minister a chance to implement his initiatives, and then I think, if the greenhouse initiative fails, then we can criticize him based on that. But to say that it was there before, but we don't officially have a full plan to say that, this initiative is failing under you as well.
Ministers have come before him with these greenhouses, and you see them up and down fail. And his one is going to fail too. Because there is nothing more producing and more active than farmers dealing in the natural soil. Nothing wrong with a little addition and thing, but you don't push that.
Yeah, but Carl,
it's forward to take us away from the soil. The other thing is with the minister, we let him get away the other day with the World Cup non-bid and come talking some nonsense about him at grounds and stadium in bad condition, and we will not be ready for the World Cup. A heap of rubbish and nonsense we let him get away with.
Okay.
We have done it before more than once. They come to us and we go to them and we bid, and they tell us, get this ready, and we will come in and test it. And if you pass, you will be officially one of our venues for things. We have done it more than once, more than twice, and we sit back and let him get away with it. And we know he told us a lot of lie and a lot of nonsense.
Okay, Carla. I know you're hyped about these issues, but I have to cut you here because I want to play.
Millions of dollars we
Carla,
lose.
Carla, Thank you. Yes, I just had to call it out because we have the clip from Dr. Harris that I promised to play for you guys before we leave. So I want to play this and get some of your feedback. Yes, it's an open mic, but I just want to get a bit of feedback on Dr. Harris's comments. I'll keep it short. Yeah, I'll keep it short so we can hear what Dr. Harris had to say.
My fellow citizens and residents, in light of the unfortunate uncertainty and disappointment resulting from the abject failure of Prime Minister Terence Dew to speak clearly and forthrightly at his recent press conference on serious matters of state, including whether or not the customary annual payment of the double salary would be made this December, I am obliged to state clearly the position of the People's Labour Party on this matter and on the payment of the CBI dividend. Given the tough situation in the country, characterized by low levels of economic growth, high unemployment and underemployment, high cost of living, particularly seen in the cost of food and pharmaceutical products, including medications required for chronic diseases, our citizens and residents listened eagerly for confirmation of the date when the expected double salary and CBI dividend would be paid. The latter was a manifesto commitment of the present administration. Nowhere in his litany of excuses and disinformation did the Prime Minister advise clearly on the payment of either the double salary in December or the CBI dividend. Against the backdrop of real hardships in our country and the enlarging group of the ultra-poor, it is reasonable to expect that the double salary in particular will be paid this year. The Team Unity government paid a double salary every year, except in 2020, when we faced the worst health and economic crisis in world history. Given our outstanding record, the public has come to expect this payment annually. We ensured that we managed the country so very well that our fiscal surpluses and huge fiscal buffers allowed us to make this bonus payment consistently. We did so without borrowing.
People make the world go
Yes, so that was a bit of Dr. Harris there, and we go back to the phone lines. Caller, good afternoon.
Greetings forwardly. Okay, concerning agriculture, we would like to say that the greenhouse project and straight to the earth both can be successful. Yeah? And we wish that it would be so. Yeah? Okay. Concerning Dr. Harris' utterance, two things we take away from that is manifesto promise. Manifesto promises. This is something that people who are dabbling into politics ought to take seriously. Yeah? And another thing we take away is from his utterance is good fiscal management. That is very important within the scheme of things. And at this point in time, Mr. Dr. Harris is not in the seat of the Honorable PM, the person who is in that seat, and he's also Minister of what they call the thing there again, the money thing?
Finance.
Yeah? Yes, of finance. So we hope that his focus is where it ought to be, and he can maneuver the right way in his fiscal management. And we wish him all the best going forward. Blessed love, my brother.
All right, thanks, caller. And we go back to the phone line. Caller, good afternoon.
Good afternoon. I think ex-Prime Minister Harris' exercise this morning was an attempt really at preemption. First of all, to preempt the current Prime Minister in case he announces double salary or another dividend. He wants to be able to claim that, well, it's pressure from him that caused the Prime Minister to do that. Okay? And secondly, I think it's an attempt to preempt. I think the People's Action Movement has a press conference next week
the 16th.
sometime.
The 16th.
Okay, right. And obviously he wants to, I guess, don't want to be clipped by that press conference. So he came out early. That's what I think, anyway. An exercise in preemption.
Okay, caller,
yeah.
you're kind of sounding a bit muffled. I don't know if your signal is bad or what.
Okay. Any better?
No, sorry about that, caller. Sorry, the caller was sounding a bit muffled, and we go back to the phone lines. Caller, good afternoon. So we lost that caller. So we're coming down to the end of Inside the News for today. So we'll just acknowledge our partners one more time, and then we'll continue with the discussions.
People make the world go.
If you need protection, you need one who you can trust. To secure your investment, you need one who'll do you just. TDC Insurance, you're the one that you can trust. TDC Insurance, you're always safe with us. TDC Insurance is your go-to insurance company for all your insurance needs. We take pride in offering you the best solutions and ensuring our customers are fully satisfied. TDC Insurance, we take good care of you, guaranteeing you peace of mind. You're always safe with us.
Maybe it's the way the brilliant gold liquid reflects our sunshine, or how the bright blue of its label mirrors the clear Caribbean skies overhead. Maybe it's the fresh, crisp taste of this beastly cold beer on a scorching hot day. Maybe it's even the way it brings us all together. But one thing is for sure, Carib is very much a part of who we are wherever we're from in the Caribbean. Carib, it's the way we play. Drink responsibly.
People make the world go.
And we're back. Caller, good afternoon.
Yes. Any better?
Yeah, this is sounding much better.
Okay. Now, I was saying, I thought it was an exercise in preemption by the ex-Prime Minister this morning, wanting to come out early just in case the Prime Minister announced that, the current Prime Minister, that is, announced that there would be, in fact, be a double salary and payment of dividends. So you want to be able to claim that pressure, essentially, from him made him do it. And secondly, to preempt the anticipated press conference on the 16th, he said, by the People's Action Movement. He don't want either him or his party to be eclipsed by them, I think, because I'm pretty sure that these are the same issues that are going to come up at that press conference. Okay? You mentioned very early in the program, though, what the real challenge is. To wean ourselves off the CBI to diversify, okay? And I think the problem we have with the CBI right now, that is one that has existed for some time. The opposition parties always view it as some kind of slush fund that the government uses to prop itself up, make itself look good, etc., right? And as such, it has operated from ever since under this cloak of secrecy, and I don't understand why it should be secret. I mean, we look at the other pillars of the economy, whether it be tourism, manufacturing, or whatever, and we have no problem giving details on the figures, on the performance of those pillars. Why should the CBI be different? We need to know figures so that we can essentially determine whether the revenues from it is being used properly. The priorities are right. I've heard it said too that we want to keep the figures on the wraps because that Nevis always says they're not getting their fair share. If you know the exact figures, I suppose they may scream even louder. But I really think we should put this behind us, get beyond it, and in an open and transparent way, release these figures. Right?
Colin,
you realize...
I want to interject there. Do you think, and this was a question I believe I had asked the Prime Minister the last time he was on here, do you think that this information should be tabled in Parliament annually, especially during the budget presentation where you're giving the revenues earned from this program?
Right. At the very least, yes. Okay. And you probably realize that Grenada publishes, really detailed statistics about its CBI program. I don't see the program losing ground because they've done that. As a matter of fact, we seem to be on track for over $1 billion in CBI revenues this year. So obviously publishing these kinds of figures have not harmed the program, have not harmed their national security interests. So there's no reason why we can't do the same. I think that's the best practice, actually, if you're going to be an open and transparent administration. But as you said, at the very least, it should be tabled in Parliament. And even the CEO of our program has indicated that citizens have a right to know these things. So he may be at odds with the powers that be, the other powers that be, insofar as publishing the information is concerned. But, I think even he realized that, to be open and transparent and so on, and the fact that it's public money, that it really should be accounted for. Okay? And the last thing with this water, it must be frustrating. Even now as rain is falling, that we apparently still have problems in some areas. Okay, we've sat on this far too long. I think more could have been done to alleviate the suffering of people. Water is something basic, and from the get-go, well, first of all, it should have been given more attention even before the government changed, okay? What seemed to have happened back then was, okay, we have a drought, there's a problem, but then the rain falls and things go back to some semblance of normality, right? But then we have a recurrent problem. And I think going in, this should have been one of those problems that should have been tackled from day one, okay? At this time, 14 months after, we should not have been at this stage. We should have been much more advanced in terms of delivering this very basic thing for the population. Okay, and now it seems as if well, according to the Prime Minister, that it's going to be delayed even further. It's not going to be the promised Christmas relief that was touted before. That's not good, I don't think. Okay, but your basic question, I think, at the outset of the program, how do we diversify? How do we saw from the budget consultation just how much the CBI was contributing to the budget. And it's obviously way too high, okay? And so the problem is, how do we diversify? I mean, the other countries in the region seem to be doing it via the traditional means of actively looking for foreign direct investment. I saw, for instance, St. Lucia saying that they attracted $2 billion in investment last year. I mean, since the government, I think it's 2 years, since the new government of PA came into existence. And I saw Antigua doing the same thing, attracting millions of dollars of investment, new investment to enhance the tourism industry, right? So we have to, I mean, if we don't do likewise, you know, we probably will be left behind. We have to, if not foreign direct investment, then something else have to come and take the place of the current pillars that we have. You know, we should try to enhance the ones that we have, but certainly get new ideas, new thinking into how to establish new pillars for growth and investment, job opportunities. Because, you know, we can talk all we want about the social services, the social safety net, the new schools, the new smart hospitals, housing, and so on. Very important. All those are very important. But they must be buttressed. They must be held up by industry, okay? Some kind of industry, okay? People have to be able to have jobs to pay the mortgages on these new houses. The schools and hospitals going to require maintenance and funds for operation, and that has to come from revenues from somewhere. Okay, those things are not generating revenue; they're soaking up revenue. Okay, so your question, I think that is the big challenge, right? How do we diversify, enhance the current pillars, but also diversify, wean ourselves off of the CBI and attract new thinking in terms of new economic directions.
All right. Thanks,
Okay,
then. So that was our final caller, giving us some insight there. He touched on a number of issues, but he ended on a critical note that we have to diversify the economy as we head into 2024. And the Prime Minister has been reiterating that for quite some time. But I know the phone lines are going off, but we are out of time. I should be back here next week, not sure. But do enjoy the rest of your weekend. It's Saturday. Stay locked and in tune with Win FM 98.9. I was German Abel sitting in today in the hot seat. Yes, it's the weekend. Enjoy, stay safe, stay hydrated, and enjoy what is left of the weekend.